lounge, online auction, fitting sound. Every find a hidden gem, turn it over, cash it in. You hustle every day, finding treasures, make it pay. From the junk to the gold, stories of resellers told. Hustle hard, never stop, every find rising to the top. Turning deals, making dreams, reseller life, it's all it seems. Pure hustle every day, finding treasures, making pay. From the junk to the gold, stories of resellers told. Every day, finding treasures, making pay. From the junk to the gold, stories of resellers told. Pure hustle, game to play. Buying low is selling high. Every day we're on the grind. Pure hustle, that's our life.
Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast, a special live Wednesday episode. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 404. And
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting being on a, isn't that like an error code or something? Episode 404.
Oh yeah, we should have done something like that, but that's all right. We'll try not to be too meta with that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
man, this is cool. We're doing a live episode. We both have had a lot of travel recently. But even with the travel, we still have had our episodes up and out, which is really great. We haven't missed anything. I do want to say for all of those who are watching over on Instagram right now, thank you guys for joining too. If you want to be able to comment, you're going to have to jump on over to YouTube or Facebook. That's where you can actually like interact with us, where we could see your comments, put them up on the screen. You're more than welcome to watch on Instagram, but it gets deleted off right away. So if you want to interact with us, come on over to YouTube. So man, Orlando, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Now, before I get started, just want to say shout out to the early people commenting here. PTC, what's going on? Diamond Ray, Dog walks the dog. What's going on? Consignment chat. And as always, this is a live, so we record this like a normal podcast. But if anybody has any questions or anything they want to engage or you want to throw in a super chat, we're willing to stop everything and just have that conversation. So I'm doing well in the sense that it's kind of nice to record a podcast again. You and I have taken a hiatus. We still recorded episodes and we dropped them, and I kind of disappeared. I feel like I disappeared from the world for a little while, especially the reselling world. I kind of I had to travel and see some friends, and I went to actually an administrators conference for educators, and that was kind of strange going back into that whole new world. So it's kind of like it's refreshing.
All right.
On vacation mode and you're accepting sales, which you should, and you planned out these days. Don't plan on packing everything the day after you get back. I would give yourself another day. Today is my first day officially back from traveling, and I had all these packages to pack, and I had these grandiose plans that I was going to get them all done, and I got all of them done pretty much. I just got 2 or 3 that I'm gonna record and drop off later for FedEx. But I got to tell you, it was overwhelming. So, and it was good. I'm glad I had sales. Now, I do want to share something funny while I was traveling. I went to this administrators conference, and somebody came up to me and they're like, "Hey, Orlando, I don't know you're getting back into education." And I looked at the person and I'm like, honestly, man, I have no idea who you are. Like, I'd love to say, I know, like, hey, I remember this. And he's like, no, it's okay, Orlando. I listened to the podcast. And I was like, what? Like, of all places, like a fellow, another administrator of an upper school does recently. It was just kind of different, right? It made me feel very validated. I was talking about this with one of my friends the other day. We were playing Mario Kart with his kids. I was at his house. And I go, do you think people that are like professionals are playing Mario Kart with their kids? And he goes, Orlando, I think it's a generational thing. Like, I think like 30 years ago, dads probably didn't play video games with their kids, right? And I would say 10, 20 years ago, a lot of people didn't have side hustles, right? Their job was their job, right? And so for me to meet people that are like heads of school and they're doing reselling was very encouraging to me, because it tells me, okay, I'm not the odd man out. And, it's another reminder that reselling has become way more mainstream, right? We talked in the early days of the podcast back in 2018 how everybody always thought it was weird when you said you're a reseller. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, resellers are everywhere. I was just gonna say, you're good now, but you cut out for a second there. That's why I started jumping in. But anyways, yeah. So resellers are everywhere. It's like we're you never know. Like, you look at somebody on the street, and it's like, are they a reseller? Maybe they are, maybe they're not, right? Like, because anybody, like you said, it's people of all different professions now do reselling. In fact, I took one of my buddies out sourcing with me, and he kind of asked me, he's like, how many of these people do you think are resellers? And I was like, I don't know, probably at least half of them. But also, like, just, I talk to people all the time, and you find out like, oh yeah, I sell things on eBay, or I sell things, and it is definitely becoming more mainstream. And there's good and bads to that. Right? We've talked about that, like the positives of it becoming, more acceptable or understood. I mean, you've even talked about like you could now get like loans, right? Like, you can go get a home loan, you show your business, and whereas before might have been a little bit like, what, this is kind of a weird thing. So, but then it's the negative of you've got more competition potentially. So yeah, it's up and down for sure.
Yeah, so shout out to Brandon. Thanks for coming up and saying what's up. We hung out, we talked. It's funny because we're like talking reselling, and we're talking about like running schools. It was just kind of awkward to be like, it's so strange, but yeah, this is the new norm. So I appreciate everybody here that's talking about how people were weird back in the day. Like, in Simon Chats here says, yeah, I started in 2012 and would take pity on me. The reaction today is so different, and that's true. I remember when I had mentioned when I first left administration to be a reseller, and people would go, "Are you okay? Like, I'm just checking up on you. Like, are you able to pay the bills?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm totally fine." So that was a lot of fun. Before I went on that trip, a good friend of mine growing up, he's always been good to me, and he'd always been in the last 6 months saying, "Hey, Rolando, I got a bunch of collectible stuff. I have like stuff from like Loot Crate, and I got like some McFarlane stuff. I got all this Marvel, Superman, like you name it, like stuff." And I kind of just want to get rid of it. And I'm like, why don't you sell it? Or how about you just sell it to me? He's like, "No, man, let me just drive down and let me just give it to you." So he hit me up this last week, Sunday or something, and he's like, "All right, I'm coming down." And so he packed up his truck, loaded up. It wasn't a truck; it's like an SUV. He loaded up the SUV, drove all the way down from San Francisco to San Diego, and this guy hooked it up. Like, it was crazy. Like, and it was all free, right? All this inventory was free. So I have all kinds of like Superman stuff that's being listed now, Batman stuff that's being listed. It's just crazy. And again, it's a reminder, like, always be willing to share that you're a reseller. Now, granted, like, I can't hide that I'm a reseller. We have a podcast and everything, but it's one of those things where I remember in the beginning, I was kind of a little ashamed. Like, oh, what if people I grew up with like catch the podcast? Do they think they're gonna think I'm weird? Like, what's gonna happen? But no, it ended up working out in the end. So I'm very grateful for everything that he bought. And then things didn't end there. I also ended up sourcing while I was on this trip, and I was actually out in Indiana. And one thing it made me appreciate was San Diego, the weather, man, the humidity. How do you deal with humidity, Mike? I don't even know, bro. Like,
yeah, it's rough, but at least our houses here have air conditioning. I mean, you're in a house with air conditioning, but a lot in San Diego don't. And running air conditioning, man, I'm sure you even still have to be a little bit cautious with.
It's crazy,
here, man. I just blast it. I mean, I've got my mini split in the garage, and I've just got it on 24/7 right now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So I went, and it's again one of those reminders. I forget that garage sales in the Midwest are earlier. They actually start on Thursdays. And what was kind of cool in Indiana is it's not like on Craigslist. We go on Craigslist here in San Diego, and we have like 300, right? And then we sort them out by neighborhood. There, they basically, in this part of Indiana, each like group of subdivision and neighborhoods choose certain dates of like the late spring and summer, and then you just go to those neighborhoods. Now, I went on a weekend where there was only like 2 or 3 neighborhoods that were doing them. Luckily, one of the garage sales I went to, and when I mean garage sales, I mean neighborhood garage sales, actually started on a Saturday, so I still was able to get good stuff. but it was kind of interesting. I go, wow, how nice would it be here? And it was a totally different vibe. I mean, it was completely different. Like when I'm here, I get major anxiety. The pressure's on. Like if I don't get up at 5:30 and I get up at 5:40, I'm like, oh no, like I'm not gonna get there in time. It's just crazy. Here, got up, had some breakfast. My friend and his wife and the kids, they all came along. We're all like in the minivan, just rolling through the neighborhood, and it was really cool. It was really cool, and I always watch these YouTube videos where people are always like, hey, do you have anything that you haven't brought out yet? And usually in San Diego, everybody's brought out all their stuff. I found here that people aren't thinking that way. Like I'm like, hey, do you have any video games? They're like, oh yeah, let me go check. And the guy went down to like his basement, right? And I asked somebody else, like, hey, do you have any baseball stuff? He's like, oh yeah, let me go check. And I kept finding good stuff. There weren't as many resellers. That was kind of nice. I mean, there were 2 or 3. You could always tell the resellers because the moment the item came out, they're like, hey, I asked for this first. And I was like, all right, bro, like it's all you. You can look through it. I'm not trying to cause drama here. But yeah, I unfortunately bought about 10 baseball bats at garage sales, and I had to take those in luggage with me. Now I fly Southwest, so I get 2 free luggage, and it was pretty easy. But one of the bats, one of my $200 bats, the most expensive one, I kind of had to like kind of coordinate the way it went in my suitcase, and it was like kind of bulging out the side of the suitcase. But I was like, hey, you know what? Even if the suitcase tears apart, like the money I'm gonna make on all those bats is worth it. So it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice. And yeah, I liked it. The thrift stores, though, I gotta tell you, store that shall not be named doesn't change. It's for lack of a better word, they sell trash. I have found that no matter what part of the country I'm in, all their good stuff has been handpicked for their shop Goodwill and their online, and you're just left with like Target brands, Walmart brands, stuff that people don't want. Every once in a while, you'll find good things. Now it depends what part of the country. I always see people in Utah going to thrift stores and like killing it, Desert Industries and so on. But I didn't see that. But I went to this other, like, this was a kind of like a ministry focused kind of thrift store. It was huge, and they had a lot of good things there. Because they're just trying to move stuff, right, to help people in the community. And so I was like, oh, this is really good. So yeah, I had a lot of fun there. It's interesting because sales have been slow. They haven't really been fantastic. Things did pick up over the last few days, and so it's just one of those things where it's this summer. I'm just trying to get by. I'm looking forward to August. I'm looking forward to Q4. I think things are going to rebound. But I'm gonna keep sourcing if there's great opportunities. There's another great opportunity I'm gonna talk about later on. But I always tell people, like, don't give up. Things will rebound as long as you're still able to pay the bills, as long as you're able still to source. There's still an opportunity for you to grow in your reselling. Hey, before we move on, Mike, let's take a look at some of the comments. Big Dre said, I was on vacation this past week, ended up spending $200 on $1,400 of inventory and made 2 business connections. There you go. Like on vacation. That's what I love about reselling. Somebody's asking me, where am I? William McClure, and I'm in San Diego. I was in Indiana, but I'm back in San Diego. So
yeah, and I like this one here. Retired Reselling says, Friday I'm going to be a full-time reseller.
Oh, good for you!
Congratulations. Your name is Retired and Reselling, so that
so
might
no
be
longer retired.
Yeah, you might have left the normal 9 to 5, and now you're jumping into reselling. So that's pretty cool, man. Congratulations. Welcome to the reselling life, hardcore. I mean, I'm not a full-time reseller, so I can't speak to that, but I'm sure you're gonna do good. So congratulations. That's awesome.
But you know what? Retired Reselling has been dedicated. Like that guy has been posting on TikTok over the last 3 years, and I've seen all his posts. And I think he has a great wealth of knowledge, and he knows like where to source. I think that's one of the big things about going full time is you got to know where to source, right? And I think he has that down. He's going to do really well. So, all right, Mike, how are things with you?
Oh, pretty good. I also took a vacation, was gone for 2 weeks. So extended my store's shipping and handling time, and had a couple of sales happen while I was gone, which was kind of cool because it still got some money, made some money on some sales, but then didn't have to necessarily stress about it getting out right away. And then when I have it, if it's really close, like if let's say there's 3 days left that I'm going to be home and then it's going out, I typically just let it be, because that's the they could see when the shipping dates are and what my handling time is. But if it's like early on in the vacation, I tend to message them and just let them know, like, thank you so much for your purchase. I will be returning back to home and be able to ship this out on X date. Is that okay with you? And I've always had them say, I think maybe one time I had somebody say to go ahead and cancel, but usually they're totally fine with that. They kind of know when the estimated arrival is anyways, so that kind of works out. And that's been a much better thing than simply putting my store on vacation mode, which used to be kind of my go-to. Just put the store on vacation mode, which I have done occasionally. Like if it's like I don't want to deal with reselling at all, my baby's about to be born or something like that, then I might put it on vacation mode. But otherwise, just extending that handling time out can be really, really helpful with that. But since being back, I didn't really do a lot of sourcing. I stopped at one thrift store on my vacation, but I had so much else going on, so much family time and other fun things that I was like, I'm just not even going to worry about it. But since I've been back, I've been to. Have you gone yet to one of the Amazon return stores in London?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, I want to hear how it compares to where you're at. But my goal, I want to go to every single value day. So I made a video. I went to, I think when I made the video, it was for the $4 day. But I had gone on the $8 day, which at my place is the expensive day, the nice day. Picked up a handful of things. I think I'll make a few $100 profit off of that.
Nice.
And I was only there for like an hour, a little over maybe an hour and a half. So that's not bad. And listing items is relatively simple because they're typically like new in box still, or like just open box. So it's pretty simple to list the items when you get it like that. But I also made a video, posted it last Monday, and it's kind of cool because I got a lot of comments and people talking about their experience with Amazon return stores. And one of the things that I found interesting is, I mean, that there's a model that places follow, but every place is unique. It's different owners, different brand names. And so like one person, for instance, said that theirs, my store does 8, 6, 4, 2, $1.50. So it like decreases in that value. Yeah. But the high day is only $8, whereas somebody said their high day was $19. Right. So I guess it just depends on where you're at. So this isn't necessarily a sourcing opportunity for everybody worldwide, whereas something like thrift stores is pretty generic. But even thrift stores can be localized, right? So, like you mentioned, the Desert Industries or ARC thrift stores or different ones that are kind of like more regional. They might have better things that you can pick up in the niche that you're interested in, or prices, whereas something like Goodwill is going to be more universal, but again, is not necessarily the place you want to be sourcing at. So that was kind of interesting. Also had one kind of frustrating thing happen, and I kind of wanted to get your feedback a little bit here, maybe some people in the comments. But I sold a pair of Cole Haan dress shoes before I left for vacation, shipped them out. They were in good condition. Like I looked at them before I sent them. And then I get a customer return request automatically approved by eBay. And they took a picture, and like on the sole of it, like it's like not necessarily the sole, but the side of the shoe is like cracked, like it's split, like it looks like it's been like cut or like split open. And that was definitely not the condition that I sent it in. And I get it, it's a used shoe. It's been in storage for a while, so it could have just been brittle. It may have been about to break anyways. But I also know with things like dress shoes, those are the types of things that I feel like people might rent. Like I need a nice pair of shoes for this wedding that I'm going to, or this job interview I'm doing. And then after they wear it, okay, I'll send them back now. I feel like for the most part, if people are going to rent stuff, they're probably just going to use Amazon because it's a much easier return process and all of that. But even still, like maybe he didn't like the way they fit or something. The only bummer though is he did it as item does not work or defective. And so it's like, how do I address this? Now it's been a long time since I've dealt with eBay. We used to have the concierge service where it was real simple. You just call them up. They could remove negative feedback, all that kind of stuff. But it seems like more and more from the anecdotal stories I'm hearing from people is eBay is much more difficult to work with when it comes to removing negative feedback or removing like an item defect. And it's just one of those things where it's like frustrating because I wouldn't mind him sending it back and giving him the refund, but I don't want that defect on my account of the does not work or item defective. And so it's what do I do, right? Like I know if you're a top rated seller, you could potentially do like the partial return, but I don't know, will they change? Have you had any experience with them changing the reason for the return as far as its impact on your account.
So you're not gonna like my answer. I would just tell them, right? They're saying that it was damaged, right? The sole was damaged.
Yeah, and I mean it wasn't damaged when they got it, but they probably
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe when they were wearing it. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt
And
and say
was it over 50 or under 50?
it's just under 50.
Okay, I would just refund it and be done with it.
I'm not worried about the refund. The money is I
Yeah.
don't care. Like whatever, it's a wash.
But I wouldn't even worry about the defect. It's not that big of a deal. I know that sounds crazy, but iNads are only if you get like a few of them, right? If you get one, you'll just get some more of the sales. You'll fix it. I'd be more worried about the negative feedback on this one, because you can fight an iNad.
See,
And
I didn't get,
go ahead.
I was gonna say that to me, I believe negative feedback is probably less of my concern. I mean, that'd be annoying to have a negative feedback, and I know there's some, people feel like it affects your account somewhat, but there is a specific number of iNads or item defects that you have that will actually have an impact on your store. Like eBay in writing, like we can guess what the algorithm does with negative feedback, but we can see for sure, like if you have a certain percentage in a category or if you're a certain percentage total of your sales. So it's like, yeah, this one might not be the one that affects me, but if I get another one and the other one, maybe it is my fault and I can't fight that one, but I didn't fight the one that I could have. It's like now all of a sudden I jump into an area where, my store is being punished.
Yeah, I think you're stuck though. I do. With iNads, they're really hard. A consignment chance brings up a good point. Says the only way they will change reason or review is if the seller level is going to be impacted. And I've seen that. I've seen people, they don't sell like crazy amounts, right? So yeah, if you have one or two, or maybe you have four of them, it can negatively impact your status. And so what they do is they'll call eBay and they're like, hey, I've had all these great sales. Things have been really good, but I kind of got these couple iNads, and to be honest, I wanted to do what's best for the buyer, and I just refunded them or I accepted the return. But I think there was more to the story, and then they'll switch it up if it impacts you in that way. But as of right now, like eBay really doesn't want to deal with any of this. Yeah, I would just move on. I would just. I don't think it's going to negatively impact your store. It'll only negatively impact your store if like you do nothing for like the next month, you don't list, you don't make any sales. Like, but if you're constantly, having something happening, it's eventually going to go away.
I mean, it's a percentage game, right? Like, so I get that. I mean, this one might not be the one, right? But it adds into that bucket. And again, like, yeah, if I don't get the sales that I'm looking for, all of a sudden, percentage wise, one could be a big impact, right? Like one sale out of 100 is 1%. But if I got 50 sales in that time frame, and again, like this is one of those things that if you're a volume seller, it might not impact you as much. But if you're selling higher end items, you maybe sell fewer items each month. That could be an impact there. I love this. I thought this was a funny comment. Big Dre said, vacation mode killed my store. The moment I turned it off, sales were back to normal. That's
so I'm gonna push back a little bit. Patrick said the same thing.
No, but that's but you got to look at what he actually said there. While vacation mode was on, he wasn't getting sales, and then he turned it off, and now sales are back to normal. Right? Like when you're on vacation mode, you're not getting sales.
What? Yeah, he's talking about the store. Like you put on vacation mode, and him and Patrick are saying that sales just stopped. Am I missing something?
When you're on vacation mode, you don't get sales during that time frame.
No, that's not true. It's only if you choose to not get sales.
Okay.
You can choose to go vacation days, and it allows you to go up to 15 days with sales. And so you can do like a 2-week vacation and put on vacation mode, and sales still come through.
Okay. It's been so long since I was in vacation mode. I guess.
No, the big debate is, and this is something we used to talk about back in the day, is never put your store in vacation mode. Instead, extend your shipping and handling. And so it looks like you're not on vacation mode. It just takes you longer to ship. I've countered that because 2 years ago, I think eBay changed vacation mode and they made it a lot more streamlined. And to me, I've had the opposite experience. Now, there is a caveat to what I'm saying, is that when I left on this trip, I still was listing while I was on the trip. So I had a bunch of drafts already. And then I sourced a bunch of toys that I was able to, with photo room, able to just take pictures in my hotel real quick and list a few items. So I was still doing things. And so I think that's what kept my store going. But I think if you go in vacation mode and you do nothing, I think it may kill your sales for a little bit.
The other reason it would kill your sales is if you got 10-day vacation mode, I mean, your sales are going to be less if people know that because it basically that's also going to extend the amount of time that you're going to be shipping that out, right? So if they know this item isn't going out until next week and they want it soon, they're going to buy somewhere else, right? So that would be a reason why people aren't going to buy from you. I mean, if you're looking to buy something and you see it's going to take 10 days to get to you versus something else is going to take 3.
It depends. Like if it's that Cole Haan pair of shoes that they need for like a dinner they're going to or something, yeah, they're gonna want to buy from someone else. But if it's like that, collectible toy that you have and it's at a great price and they don't really need it right now, they're willing to wait to 10 days.
But again,
That's
it's
been my
percentages.
experience.
Think about like the percentages of the things that are in your store, right? Like you might have 10, 20, 30% of your items are like those like high collectible items, but like a lot of things that we sell, people want right away. Like there's a reason why we have fast shipping. Like otherwise we would just extend our shipping out and it wouldn't matter. But we have fast shipping because we know there's going to be people who want things sooner.
Yeah. I to me,
So
it's
your sales will drop. Like if you do time away, extended shipping, like I think that's just, I don't think that's necessarily a bug. I think that's just kind of a feature, right? Because you're going to be lower on the priority with it. Because if your items are competitively priced and they're pretty close to everybody else, maybe a little bit lower, but it's going to take 2, 3, 4 times as long for yours to get to them. I think, yeah, there's going to be some items where people don't care. They're going to wait, but there's going to be a lot of items. They're just going to go to your competitor.
Yeah. I think it's just the items that you sell. And when I sold clothing, I know that when I went on vacation mode, things like shut off. It was bad. But as I've shifted over the last 2 years, I don't have a slowdown in my sales now. I say that it's because the sales are still slow, but they're the same slow that they were while I was on vacation. So there wasn't a change, right? It wasn't, so sales are still slow. But yeah, I mean, to each their own. I would just always be very careful on the language that you use when you do that. There's that message that you can send. I think that message can keep people hooked. Like if you say, hey, thanks so much, I really appreciate your business, just let you know I'm traveling and I will be shipping this out when I get back. And people are, I had some guy that bought a Mac shirt, and here's the crazy thing, they didn't pay for it until after I left for vacation. And then the problem with that is that they didn't pay for it until after I left for vacation. So now eBay said shipping overdue. So I was like 7 days shipping overdue because, well, I couldn't do anything. Now I eventually messaged him and I just bought a label on eBay. Oh wait, I haven't shipped it out yet. Okay, I will do that after the podcast. It's okay. It's not. The guy was cool about it. It was fine. But yeah, you just gotta be careful with that. Hey, one thing that works, no matter if you're on vacation or not, is My Reseller Genie. All right, so quick ad here. So if you haven't yet signed up for My Reseller Genie and you're stressed, there's no better time than now, being that there's a summer slowdown. You can check out all the functions of My Reseller Genie. It's a great tool. If you haven't done your taxes yet, or if you're concerned about your taxes, it'll import everything from the previous years from eBay and Poshmark, allows you to keep track of your profit and loss. And so definitely check out My Reseller Genie. You can use our code for the first time, Pure Hustle, and I'll give you 15% off the first month. That's again, Pure Hustle for 15% off the first month, and use that code below for My Reseller Genie. It's actually software that's made by resellers, and that's why we are very, very excited about that product. All right, what's some random stories, Mike?
All right, so my random story, I kind of feel bad about this. So I invited one of my friends to go to that $8 day at the Amazon return store. And you know what it's like when you bring somebody who's not a reseller. You're kind of trying to show them the ropes, but you also have a job to do, so you're kind of just doing things. So we were in line waiting to get into the store before they opened. And I was kind of telling him like, oh yeah, like one of the cool things that I got here. And I told him about that ice maker, that ice like machine, commercial ice machine part that I picked up for $8 and is like a $300, at least 250 up to like $350, depending on, but I should be able to at least sell it for like $250, $300. And so I told him about it and he's like, well, how do you know what to get? And so one of the things I said, look, I just didn't, I'm digging through this stuff and I saw this like kind of smaller box and it was like heavy. So like, I knew to look at it. It was like some things you look up and you pick it up and you're like, yeah, it's a calendar in there. So you kind of just, I have the eye for it, but I was like, this one caught my eye because it's a little bit heavier, sturdier. And so I spent a little bit of time investigating it. I looked up what it was. I went and opened it. So anyways, we get split up once we get in there and he's putting stuff in his cart and I'm putting stuff in my cart. And then before we're ready to leave, he's like, all right, now look through my cart and like, tell me how I did. Like, is any of this stuff good? And I'm like looking through his stuff and I told him like my threshold was I like to be able to sell things for about $50. If I'm buying it for $8 here, I want to know I should be able to sell this for a net $50 or sell it for about $50, even so if I net 30, $35, that's not bad. Because I can pick up quite a few things and that turns out to be a decent profit. So I told him if it's like only $25 you can maybe make for it, it's really not worth it for me to pick up. And so I started looking at stuff and he had quite a few decent things, but again, it was in that didn't pass that threshold where it's like, okay, this you could probably sell for $20. This you might be able to sell for like $24. And so that it didn't really work out as far as this wouldn't be worth picking up at $8 because you're going to sit on it. You're paying up. Like I wouldn't mind paying $1 for this. Like if I was at a garage sale, knowing I could sell it for $30 or $25, but it's just not worth it at $8. I wouldn't buy that at a garage sale at that price. And so I'm kind of telling that, but then I'm looking at a lot of the stuff he picked up and it wasn't resellable. And it was just, he's like, well, it was heavy box. And so like, I gave him that piece of advice, and it wasn't even really a piece of advice, but it was just like that one experience. Like I picked up something, it was heavy, it caught my eye. I knew to like investigate it a little bit. And as somebody who's not like a seasoned reseller, he took that as, okay, like heavy box, good. And so even some of the boxes were really big. And so I'm like, man, here's the problem though. This is a big, heavy box. And yeah, maybe you could sell this for like $40, $50, but you're going to spend a ton on shipping. It's just not going to be worth it. And so I think we also have to remember that, like when you're how much we know now that you didn't know when you were first starting. And I don't know if Pearsall Podcast has kind of lost those roots a little bit as far as kind of reaching out to those like brand new resellers. I think we're right in the middle, right? We've got some veterans, some newer, but then there's the like rookies. And, not every podcast or episode or conversation can be a reselling 101. That would be redundant, and that's just not who we are. But I think it's important to spend a little bit of time remembering like, okay, I have an eye for things now that I didn't have 6 years ago. And when somebody says like, how do you know what to look up? And it's like, I can't just give you like, here's 5 easy tips of what to pick up, because a lot of it comes with, I've seen a lot of things like this not sell. I've seen things like this sell. I'm not sure about this. I've never seen it. That's interesting because I've seen a lot of stuff. So part of it is just a feel. You've got to get the like touch. Like you gotta do it enough times. You get that experience. And like, I even think you, Orlando, you'd probably do really well at one of those Amazon return stores, even though that's not the typical items you're buying, but still you kind of have a pulse on like what types of items are valuable versus what's not.
Yeah, I would say one of the big ones, if I was brand new, I'd have a hard time making kind of like the difference between a private label, right, and a brand name, right? Because you go, oh, this is a really good item, but it's like, well, it's not going to sell because it's private label.
Yeah, right? I mean, he picked up like an Oculus charging port, and he's like, oh, this is Oculus, but then I'm looking at it's like, this is like just a China third-party knockoff. Like it's kind of unbranded. You're not gonna, now if this was an Oculus one, yeah, you'd pick it up, you'd sell this for $100, no problem. But because it's an off-brand third party, yeah. And Consignment Chats here says, your reseller and use all 5 senses. That's absolutely right. I mean, like when you go to a bins or a thrift store, you could tell by certain clothing, like this is just high quality. Like I can tell by the way it looks, by the way it feels. I probably am not tasting any of the items. But I get what's being said there is you've got to use all your senses. If something smells, right? Like, okay, I'm not picking this up, but you can kind of tell what's quality and what's not just by handling and being around a lot of products. I mean, for instance, I took my wife and my kids to one of the days, I think it was the $2 day. And she picked up a ton of stuff and I would have never picked it up. And I'm like, well, how did you know to pick up these things? And she goes, well, I see this brand on Instagram and people talk about this. And so she's really in tight with like the niche stuff, the things that are like kind of, I don't even want to call them trendy, because what I've noticed is people miss a lot of the things that she's picking up at these stores because people are going in, they're thinking, this, I was trying to think of an example that we were talking about. She picked up one item and it's like pacifiers, right? So we picked up a thing of pacifiers. People think like, pacifiers are super cheap. Like, why would I, pay $4 for just pacifiers? I can go to, Walmart and get brand new pacifiers, $4. But it was like a really unique brand, like an extremely expensive kind of niche brand that most people aren't aware of. So they wouldn't know to spend that kind of money on those items.
But I think it goes, when I've been doing all these private picks lately, Even the last one I went to, they had a lot of old stuff, and it was like quality stuff. And they're like, "Oh, Orlando, look at all this amazing stuff." And I said, "I'm real with you. Like, it is cool, but the fact that there is no brand name, the fact that I have no idea who made it, the fact that when I use keywords on eBay, it's going to be really difficult. Like, I'm not going to pick it up. Now I know there's certain things that are kind of like Antiques Roadhouse kind of deal, but for Roadhouse Antiques Roadshow, I think, kind of deal. Then yeah, some of those you got to do a little bit more research, but for the most part, when you're looking up stuff, like, brand is everything, right? And as a new reseller, I'll never forget. I remember I picked up. I've mentioned this story a lot, and I'll move on from here. But I picked up this old like torch thing, and it was like green, had patina and everything, but I had no name, and I thought it was worth like $100, right? And I went to the local antique mall, and I went to the back. I remember I told you the smoker lady. She's like, "Hey, what do you want?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to sell this thing," and I know she's like, "Ah, how about $5?" And I was like, "What, $5? I thought it was worth like $100." And she's like, "All right, I'll double your money, $10." And I thought I got robbed, but I was like, "I'll take the $10." I paid $5 for it. And then I went home and I started doing research. And yeah, she was actually doing me a favor. She was being nice. It was worth $5. But that's one of those things where, like, it just comes with time, right? And you gotta, I can't tell you how many times I go with somebody brand new and they're like, "Hey, Orlando, take a look at this," and you kind of feel really bad. You're like, "Hey, I appreciate it, but here's why it's not worth anything." You have a lot of those conversations. So now, speaking of private picks, so this was an interesting one. I went to a really nice house, and I'm not done picking at this place. They're kind of like doing it in like, just, I don't know, sections at a time. They're trying to move out of the house. And so I was contacted and I went, and they already had said everything. And I picked up a lot of good stuff. I picked up one of those like V electric guitars, like they're split down the middle kind of deal.
Mhm.
And it's worth like, it could be worth 600, it could be worth 1,000, 3,000. Don't know. I picked up another guitar, and what was cool was my friend that came down from the Bay Area, he's an avid guitar player. So I got him to like play the guitar so I could shoot video that it works, so I could put it on eBay. So that was kind of cool. And he got to test them out, and he actually knows, what things are worth, and he knows people in the community, so he was able to reach out. So that was kind of cool because I paid $275 for everything. And I actually bought a lot of stuff blind. I knew the guitars were going to bring me money. That what I knew was going to bring me money was a bunch of PlayStation games that they had, and I sold like one of them for 80, and there's some others, so I knew I'd make my money back. Well, there's a bunch of vinyl there, and I don't pick up vinyl. I feel that vinyl is a lot of work, like the grading, like you really got to know what you're picking up. On top of that, the artwork plays a large role. The quality, as far as like not only how nice it looks or how stand out it is, but like, has it stood the test of time? Like, is it bent? Is it wrinkled? Does it work? And then how produced is it? Like, is it mass produced? If it's mass produced, then it's not worth much. So for example, like one thing I always see all the time is like a Beatles album, right? And I'm like, oh, the Beatles, 1960s, Abbey Road or whatever, these albums, and they're not worth much. They're worth like $10, right? You think they'd be worth a ton, but they're not. Well, my buddy that was here started going through them, and they're all these old, like, vintage classic rock records. And I kind of didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with, trying to figure out the grade, trying to list them, trying to ship them. And I thought, I'm going to be like those guys on American Pickers or whatever, on Pawn Stars or whatever. I'm going to go to a record store and see what I can get for them. So I paid $275 for everything. And my buddy picked out like the best ones out of the boxes, and we had about 40 of them. And I ended up going to the record store, and over 2 days, I made $330 on those records. And so I was like, wow, like, if I ever don't want to deal with vinyl and I see them at a garage sale or an estate store or thrift, like, I'll pick them up and I'll just take them to this record store. Now, he was very fair with me. He told me that, he pays about a third of what they're worth. And sure enough, like, when I came the second day, I saw some of the records, and I'm like, oh, that's a nice price. And he's like, well, and I'm like, no, you don't got to explain to me. Like, I get it. Like, if only you knew how much I paid for these. I paid like $1, so you paid me 20. I don't know what somebody paid me 20, somebody paid me 30. But anyways, it was one of those things that was really nice. It was right before my trip, and I kind of wanted to see how much cash I could get, and I wanted to grab that cash and turn that cash into money at the garage sale. So at the garage sales, I bought a ton of bats. I bought some vintage Blaze toys. Remember those trucks, the Blaze trucks? Like those are worth some money. They were like a Netflix show. I think Nickelodeon then went on Netflix, but like some of them were worth like $20-$30. So I bought a bunch of those, and then turning that 330. I only spent like 50 something bucks. Turning that $50, so 275. I'm at 330. I haven't even listed anything else that was at this place. And then on top of that, the stuff in the garage. So I think that's what I'm going to do with records now. I think if I come across records and I kind of don't want to deal with the hassle, I'll just go to this guy at this record store and just sell it off. Sometimes it's nice to get that quick money. And, I know I'm selling to a reseller, but it's okay. I made money. He made money. We're all happy.
Yeah, it's good.
So there we go. All right. Hey, before we move on to our resources, we got eBay seller updates. We got some fun things to talk about here. If you haven't yet helped us out on Patreon, please do so. Patreon helps, especially during the summer months. It keeps us going. Like right now, sales are slow. All this time that we spend researching and doing stuff on social, which I haven't done much lately because I've been really busy, and putting together a podcast does cost us time and money. But if you help us out, on patreon.com/podcast for just $5.55 a month, about the price of those new McDonald's value meals, like just sacrifice it once a month and you'll help us out. So if you haven't yet signed up, go to our Patreon. You can go to the link below, and doing that will allow you to join us in the Discord. All kinds of resellers are there. And the awesome thing Mike and I always talk about is that sometimes Mike and I aren't able to get on the Discord, but there are so many other amazing people. There are resellers that are far better than us in there, and there are rookies that are in there too. There's all kinds of people learning, from bolos to Amazon, to private label, to storage units, all kinds of information. So check us out there. And also on social media, if you yet haven't been following us, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram and Facebook and all other channels, except for on X, we are Pure Hustle Cast. And as always, you can give us a call, 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. Or shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. And as always, grateful for all the iTunes reviews. If you haven't had a chance yet, go on over to iTunes, drop a review, tell everyone why you enjoy Pure Hustle Podcast. Really appreciate all of you. And last of all, if you haven't subscribed to this channel and you're watching this right now, make sure to subscribe, make sure to smash that like button, and hit that bell to be notified for any new videos.
Yeah, that's right. Now, normally this would be the part where I play this song right here, and then talk about what it. But I think sometimes when I play that sound, it cuts out my audio. So let's just jump right into our breaking news. Lots going on in the reselling world. What are we talking about today, Orlando?
So eBay summer update. Let us know in the chat your thoughts on the eBay summer update. Maybe you guys didn't know, but that dropped today. And these updates, this one was kind of not much to it, but I always warn people that an update comes out and everyone's like, oh, there was nothing to it. And then what ends up happening is a month or two later, some crazy drama ensues. Right? Remember Promoted Listings Gate a few years ago? Like it's strict listings. What was going to happen? No one really paid attention to it. And then once eBay really started doing things, people were like, what is this? No one ever told us. And it was actually in the update. So hopefully that doesn't happen to us today. But there's some interesting things. I would say, first of all, again, they're pushing promoted listings. So one of the things they talk about is enhancements to the Seller Hub marketing tab for store subscribers. So if you have a store, right, they're just giving you like all these tools, right, to do volume pricing, do sales, coupons, offer to buyers, all those things. And I was like, there's not much to that. Like, to me, it was like, okay, like, I appreciate you letting us know, but that's kind of doing eBay more of a favor than doing us of a favor. I know I'm selling really harsh right now, but I'm finding lately that this is what eBay wants. And actually eBay, I didn't want to touch on this too much, but eBay had another round of layoffs. They laid off a bunch of eBay employees over in Israel, talking about their new restructuring. And so we'll see on the new earnings report, like eBay's kind of like, this is their thing, this is their jam. So I just want to encourage people, if eBay is talking about the fact that they want you to do more marketing and more promoted listings, and kind of what you need to do.
Yeah. The next one you have on here, the new messaging on the desktop. I kind of looked through that a little bit. It seems like a weird, I mean, I guess it's just like getting their desktop app up to the modern times. But I mean, I think most people are using the messaging on their phone, right? Like
It's so much easier.
I use the computer for some certain things now, certain listings, making certain drafts, doing some things in the seller hub when I want to see metrics and stuff. But when it comes to just like dealing with messaging, that 99.99% of the time that's happening on my phone. So the updates they've done on the phone, were helpful. I don't think updating the desktop version is a huge plus, but I mean, at least it gives them something to talk about. One that I found interesting they had here in the seller update was the new auction price, like getting paid right away. Did you see that?
No, I did not see that one.
Okay, so
I missed that.
they're trying to optimize the way or change the way they do auction payment. So this is how they have this part worded: as part of our continuing effort to ensure timely payments for our sellers, right? So like they know people are frustrated. So here's essentially what it does. So when they said for select auctions, so this isn't even all auctions yet, but it says for select auctions, buyers will be required to have an address and a payment on file before they can place a bid, which I feel like you shouldn't even be able to make an account without that stuff put in there. But they can't make a bid. And then once they place a bid and win an auction, then eBay will notify them and they will have 1 hour to potentially make changes to their like default payment options. And if they don't make any changes, then after that hour, eBay will charge them. So I think that is a move in the right direction, right? In the sense that, auctions are one of those things where for sure people, it really stinks because we talk about the buy it now and someone, accepts an offer or buys something and then they don't pay and we're waiting on that payment and it's like our item is being held hostage. But think about it for an auction. Like you said, an auction, and there were other buyers potentially who wanted to buy that item. And then now it's like locked up by somebody who's not going to pay you. So at least this gives some benefit. And I guess I understand the reasoning behind like, if you want to make any changes to your address or billing. But I think that should just be part of like when you place the bid, there should just be like a thing that you click that says like, yes, this billing and address is correct. And then you can place your bid. And then that's it. Like as soon as you win, it should just be instant payment. But it just seems like this is part of that slow rollout.
No, it's it's just another. I think I'm gonna make a remix video of all the promises that were made by CEO of instant payment, because it's been said a few times.
Yeah, but here's the thing:
several years
they're doing it, but it's like they should have just reworded it. What they should have said is, "We are going to provide instant payment in the next couple of decades." Because it's slowly rolling out, like it's getting there.
All right, hey, I do want to talk about messaging a little bit on the desktop, but not yet. I want to address Big Dre here, and Jeanette have been going back and forth talking in the chat here. Says, I just got a really weird eBay glitch. I accepted an offer of $20, but I don't see the item was shipped. So I checked, and it says I sent the buyer the same offer of $20. And then Jeanette replied, hopefully I'm saying that right. Big Dre, your offer isn't officially accepted until it's paid for, is what I heard. Okay, and that's true. And then again, that's eBay not addressing things, eBay putting band-aids instead of fixing the problem. So the problem here is, I guess it's supposed to be innovative now, and it does answer, or at least it responds to what some eBay sellers have been saying, where, hey, I hate my item being held hostage, where somebody sends an offer and I accept it and it's no longer live. So for some of these, and here's what's crazy about it, it's not every time, it's hit or miss. Like I don't even know how eBay decides which one to do this with. And we've talked about this before, but yeah, what happens is, you get an offer, you accept it, and then it no longer shows up anymore. And you're like, what happened? Well, according to eBay, multiple people were sent that offer and it's still alive until somebody finally pays for it. What happened there is the person probably never paid for it and no one else accepted the offer. And so it's just going to stay live. That's all that's going to happen. Right. So it's just kind of broken. I mean, the other side of it is they're still doing the thing where somebody sends you an offer, and if it doesn't have like that green background in the message, that just means that, you may get paid, you may not get paid. And that's kind of what happened. So hopefully that answered your question, Dre. Jeanette, you're right on with that one. All right. With the messaging, Now, there's some cool things I like. It is funny, like you said, come up to modern times. Like Gmail's only been doing this since its inception, like 20 years ago or something. But like you can actually, I have it. I actually have the new messaging. They haven't fixed it completely, but it is kind of nice because before it was the worst when you had to go on the desktop because it wasn't the same as the mobile. Like it wasn't like a text messaging kind of deal. It was like sending an email and you couldn't track it. Now you can actually filter to only have eBay messages. You can filter to only be messaged from buyers. And then when you look at the messages, they look like text messages. But they haven't fully rolled everything out. There's supposed to be a search function where you can search for stuff in there, and it's not there yet. So hopefully they will roll that one out. But I kind of like that. I thought that was kind of cool. I want to hear your thoughts on this one. So this new thing now is a few weeks ago, the irony here, eBay stopped using Amex because their fees were too high. And which I'm like, what? Okay. Like that's just a bad like line. But as a result of that, Venmo is now being accepted on eBay, which I do think is a win.
Yeah,
a lot of people use Venmo.
That's a huge win. Venmo is even at a lot of garage sales I go to, especially if it's younger people and it's bigger items. Like typically I carry a certain amount of cash on me, but there have been a handful of times where it's like, all right, I'm gonna be dropping like $500 right now on a bunch of stuff on a big item. And I didn't bring that much cash with me. So it's really nice when you can say, hey, do you accept Venmo? And I think so many people use Venmo just in their day-to-day personal life. So being able to connect that is going to be, I think, a huge win for us as sellers, because I think people might be more willing to jump on eBay if they can use Venmo. Because it's like PayPal. Like PayPal is one of those things that back in the day was like convenient and interesting. Like you could send people money through PayPal and you could buy things using PayPal. But compared to like the ease of Venmo now, like Venmo is so much more user friendly and useful for people. Or even Zelle. I don't think Zelle is quite as popular as Venmo. Venmo is, what's the name for it? I can't remember. When a brand name becomes like the name known for like the thing itself.
I don't know. I know
somebody says Kleenex, like, can you hand me a Kleenex when they just mean a tissue and Kleenex is the brand? I almost feel like that's like Venmo. So like even if people have Zelle and people will say like, hey, can I Zelle you or something like that? But I think Venmo is the one that most people are kind of have in the back of their head. So that's a win. I get what you're saying about a bad look as far as them saying eBay saying that Amex fees are too high because they continue to raise their fees on us. However, it's one of those things where eBay has costs and then they have income, right? Just like any other business or any other person. And so they want to make their bottom line as high as possible. And one of the ways they've been doing that is raising fees on us. But another way they can make their bottom line higher is by reducing the costs that they have. And so if they can potentially make their stakeholders happier by reducing those costs, I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I agree with, because Simon Chat's actually brought up a good point though here. It says, I'm not okay without the Amex. That is generally what people use for the higher dollar items. Not cool. And I don't know people that do that, but I do know wealthy people, and the wealthy people use Amex. Like they have certain cards that gives them certain privileges and so on, and so they use the Amex. And so maybe we've lost some of those people, but maybe it'll make up with the overwhelming amount of people that use Venmo. And I agree with you. I go to garage sales. I go to private picks all the time, and I'll use Venmo a lot more than cash now. That last private pick I talked about, I was $25 short, and I said, "Hey, can I just Venmo you?" And then we just Venmoed, and it was really easy. So there you have it. So that's pretty much all I saw. I mean, there may have been other stuff. They talked about international shipping and all this, but I just use eBay's international shipping. I'm not worried about all the EU stuff, and so. Whatever, like, I think it only matters if you're not trying to use that program. If we're wrong, correct us, or if I'm wrong, correct us. And then they also said that they updated their terms of service, which to me, it is what it is. I mean, what am I going to say no and not sell on eBay? So just gonna leave it there. Now, ground advantage. Somebody had in the comments that said earlier on, like way beginning in the comments said. Here we go. PTC said, looking forward to seeing your guys' reactions to the big ground advantage price increases. And here's the reaction. I'll start first. I'm not worried about it. And this is why. So what's going on, ground advantage is going up by 5.4%. Priority is going up by about 5.9%. No, 5.7%. And so it is going up. But ever since eBay did that whole thing where they're like, oh, we're giving the discount to sellers, on calculated shipping, I don't do calculated shipping anymore. So to me, the one thing I'll have to do if those prices go up, I'll just have to go to my flat fees on all my items, and maybe I go up 50 cents, maybe I go up $1, maybe I don't do anything and I just stay competitive. But to me, it's not a big deal. If calculated shipping used to be how it was back in the day, I'd be more concerned about it. But since I don't do calculated shipping anymore, I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah, and you also got to figure like percentage wise, like yeah, I mean that's a huge increase, but the amount of inflation we've had over the last several years, it's not surprising that they're increasing prices. But if you figure that sounds like a big increase, but if it was a 10% increase and you're normally shipping something for $5, you're paying 50 cents more. Well, it's less than that. It's like half of that. So you might be paying an extra, anywhere from 10 cents to 40 cents extra on shipping, which yeah, it's a pain. Nobody's going to be excited about that for sure. But it's also kind of not surprising. I think sometimes there's increases with shipping that are like much bigger, right? Like percentage wise, like everything in these types of packages going up $1. Well, if you look at percentage wise, that could be a 20-25% increase. So I'll take the less than 6% increase and say like, okay, this stinks, but it's also, I mean, everything's going up. So I'm not shocked, I guess is the way I'd put it. Am I happy about it? No. I'd love for them to lower prices, but I'm not shocked that there's an increase.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. And yeah, that's pretty much our reseller topics for this week. But I do want to touch on one thing about the eBay feedback policy. I should have put this in random stories, but I'll just share it here. Just a reminder that, you had mentioned before how eBay would give people that were concierge, like, 3 or 4 negative feedbacks that could be removed, or meaning that, you're a high volume seller or you're quote unquote like an eBay influencer or whatever, and that's all gone. I will tell you, the feature where you ask for them to remove feedback, when you go eBay seller help, it doesn't help. And I want to remind people, like, customer service, I think, is the only way that you're going to get negative feedback removed. I would actually do that before I ever reach out to eBay. And I've mentioned many stories, but I had another situation here where, I sold a comic. I actually had, not only was it backed by cardboard, I had 2 cardboards on it, and I taped it really tight. It couldn't move. There's only so much I could do about it. And, it showed up, the person got upset, and instead of contacting me, doing anything, they're like, negative feedback, item was shipped poorly. It wasn't backed by cardboard, like flat out lied about everything on the feedback. And I went on, the eBay negative feedback removal, and I said, hey, this person, isn't telling the truth about the way I shipped it. I can't control the fact that the post office damaged it. I'm asking, respectfully, that this be removed. Nope, doesn't follow any of the guidelines. And I'm like, okay, so which I thought it followed at least, lying isn't okay. The post office damaging my item, I can't do anything about that. I packed it as well as I could. And so I had to kowtow. I had to, do everything I can. I refunded the person immediately. And then I messaged them and I said, hey, and so they messaged me as soon as I refunded. They're like, hey, this is what they said. This was kind of, it bothered me a little bit. They said, thanks for the refund. Even though it does have a nice crease, now do you want me to send it back? Because you're paying for shipping and handling if you want me to send it back. So I kind of feel like this was kind of shady, right? Like, they're like, hey, I want to keep it because it's going to cost you more. Why don't you let me keep it, right? I didn't care. It was it's always the low dollar sales, right? So then they said, no to return. I said, no need to return it. It's all good. If you can revise the feedback to positive, I would greatly appreciate it. This is my main source of income, and a negative impact affects my business. I will follow up with the post office. Again, my sincerest apologies. Then I got a tutorial on how to correctly pack comics. I got multiple pictures. And you know what? How do you respond to that? Well,
thank you.
Yes, master. They don't come bent, and the corner is destroyed like this, and it might cost a little bit more, but people like me prefer it that way. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm so glad you shared that with me. And then they keep going, and I have to keep responding. Thank you. They said it starts talking trash about the post office guy. I seen him throw packages on the front porch of my neighbors and me outside yelling at them. It's a bunch of bull. So okay, you're a little unhinged, right? Like neighbors and you are yelling at the post office guy when he shows up. Like what is going on here? Like, and so I went to this guy's feedback and I noticed that this guy or gal, I don't know, has left multiple negative feedbacks for people with the same thing, not backed by cardboard, terrible shipping, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? So I just said, got it. Makes sense. I appreciate the info. Yeah, a postal worker should not should not throw packages that way. That's wild. And then I sent the feedback revision and it got revised. But it's like, why eBay? Why eBay? Obviously, there are unhinged people that buy stuff. Like you got to do something about this. Like this is I feel like this is the eBay's bad customer service because eBay has to remember it's not the buyers who are their customers. That's our customers. We, the sellers, are the customers. And when they make us go to these lengths where we basically have to do feedback extortion, we have to pay off people, we have to beg, we have to plead, we have to give these sob stories. Like, it's not okay. It's not okay. But whatever. I got back my feedback and I'm back to 100%. But it's just, anyways, I'm just ranting. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Orlando rant here. It is what it is. But I feel eBay just needs to do better. All right. Bolos.
All right, here we go.
Bolo.
What's your bolo?
Right. So my bolo actually comes from an experience at the Amazon Return Store. So my son, we don't do a lot of video games with him, but I have an Xbox One. I've probably played it like 20 minutes over the last 5 years. But I have the old Halo game, and I was like, it'd be really fun, like just to play the multiplayer Halo with my son. It's almost, to me, it's like virtual laser tag, right? Like memories of being a kid playing multiplayer. But I didn't want to buy a remote because Xbox remotes are stupid expensive. Well, they had at the store, they had tons of remotes, PlayStation remotes, Xbox remotes. They had headsets. In fact, my buddy actually picked up a pretty good headset. But I picked up a third-party private label Xbox controllers compatible with Xbox, all of that. And I hooked it up to my Xbox. And after like 3 hours of updating the Xbox so I could actually use it, I get this like alert that comes on. It says, notice a third-party device was detected for the controller. And it was like October or something of last year, 2023, somewhere around then, Xbox has decided that they're not going to allow any other controllers other than Xbox controllers for their device.
Really?
And they can tell they'll give you 14 days. So they give you 14 days to use it, and after that, like, it logs it into your account and you can never use that controller on the device again. What? So that kind of got me thinking, and I might be late to the game on this one. In fact, I know I'm late to the game on this one. But that means Xbox controllers, like actual Xbox branded controllers or Xbox approved controllers, as it works. There's some that are not Xbox brand, but they're Xbox approved, are going to go up in value in the used market, because where people would just go and buy a $30 Xbox controller off of Amazon can no longer do that, or a $25 controller can no longer do that, because they're not going to be able to play long term. And as more people realize, like, wait, I need to actually get an Xbox controller, if they don't want to go spend the $65 or whatever for one controller, they're going to be turning to eBay. And so if you can be at garage sales, I don't pick up a lot of game consoles, but occasionally you see like parts to them. You see, controllers and stuff. And if you can find Xbox controllers, they're going to be more valuable than they used to be, simply because of Microsoft's new policy. So that is my bolo.
That's interesting. That's good. That's good. So mine is McFarlane Toys. And the reason I bring this up is sometimes you'll be at a garage show or thrift store and you'll see a ton of like starting lineup, right? And starting lineup generally is worthless. Like, it's not worth even researching. But McFarlane is. You just never know. And McFarlane Toys, they make, figures like, they're like starting lineup kind of, but they're McFarlane. And it's all kinds. Like, for example, like if you get one of the Sentinels from the Matrix, those like kind of creatures that fly through the air or whatever, it's like $500. Right? You never thought that, right? Or you get musicians that are McFarlane. Or for me, like one time I sold a Ken Griffey that he was like over the wall catching a home run, and that one sold for $150. So keep an eye out for McFarlane, even if it's used. There's good money, and there's a huge genre, and I don't think a lot of people talk about it. Maybe I'm killing my own market here, but McFarlane toys, I just picked up a bunch of McFarlane toys for my good friend, and they're worth good money. So check out McFarlane.
Yeah, I actually sold a handful of McFarlane Spawn toys and did really
Oh,
well
really?
on those. Yeah.
There you go. See, it's interesting. It's interesting because they're not any different than starting lineup. They're just maybe maybe there's better craftsmanship. Yeah. See, everybody's bringing up my first flip was a McFarlane Metallica. Yeah, there's all kinds of McFarlane stuff out there that you can sell. Thank you for sharing that, Jonathan. All right, hey, before we move on though, one thing that actually I need to order that today. I just realized that I need to get some bubble wrap. And if you haven't ordered some bubble wrap from American Bubble Boy, they're a great company. We personally know Joel, the guy who founded the company, and actually, I want to say that we were one of the first people to encourage him to expand on social media. And great deal. You get next day, 2 day shipping, depending where you're at, local pickup. They're the best price and the best quality of bubble wrap. If you haven't checked out American Bubble Boy, check them out and use the link below. Obviously, it helps us out, but it's going to help you out with a great deal and great bubble wrap. All right, Mike, what are you looking forward to here?
I don't know, just more sourcing, and potentially even more listing than I've been doing. It's summertime, which means I'm off from school. But the other benefit now that I have this mini split is I can actually go out in the garage. Last summer, I didn't want to be in the garage, and it's a pain to set up my photo booths and stuff in the house in the living room. So now that I can do this out here in the garage, my listing speed has gone up and my desire to list has gone up. So just more sourcing, more listing. I want to get to like a church rummage sale or something here pretty soon. And other than that, just keep grinding, keep hustling.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm just looking forward to listing everything I've sourced. The beauty of it is, the private pick, I picked up a ton of stuff, but I didn't even go through it. So it's going to be kind of cool going through it and go, wow, this is valuable. Or maybe there's going to be a lot of junk. All the stuff that my friend brought down, like there's some cool stuff in there. And it's just, it's hard because some of the stuff I want to keep, but I got to sell. I got to use the micro rule that would you be willing to pay that for yourself? Buy that for yourself at the price that you're selling it for. And if you're not, then you should just sell it. Yeah. And so I'm going to do that. And then, what else do I have here? Yeah, just garage sales. I'm psyched. I haven't been to garage sales in San Diego maybe in like 3 or 4 weeks, or at least I haven't had a major haul. And it is getting really hot out here now. And I say really hot. It's like in the 80s, okay, dry heat. But that causes people not to want to sell. But I've had some great scores in July. So I'm still looking forward to sourcing here in upcoming July. And it's good. I actually don't have to source probably for, I think, the summer based on everything that I've sourced in the last 3 weeks. But I'm still going to source garage sales because what if I actually list everything, which I don't think is going to happen. Shout out again. I always say this, Tim the Slim, mention of every podcast, but he actually listed every single item. He got rid of all his death piles. And I'm like, wow, like what it would feel like if I could do that. That's never going to happen, but it would be nice. So hey, appreciate everybody here. Appreciate everybody that commented. Thankful for all of you that, hit that like button. If you haven't yet, smash that like button before we say goodbye. And with that being said, make sure to be real.
Be relevant.
And be reselling late.
Peace.